Have you ever felt the air shift around you, subtly, silently, like reality itself was holding its breath, waiting for you to finally notice the hidden truth beneath everything you call life? Because what you're about to hear doesn't begin with a person. It doesn't begin with a discovery. It begins with a quantum frequency, one so strange, so precise, so impossibly intelligent that no one understood what was happening until it was too late to pretend it wasn't real. The moment it appeared, the world around him changed, not with a sound, not with a flash, but with a presence, an invisible pressure moving through the energy field of the room, rearranging the atmosphere like an unseen hand was brushing against the fabric of existence. The lights dimmed, the temperature dropped by a single degree, and the silence became so dense it felt conscious. He wasn't searching for mysteries. He wasn't looking for proof of a hidden reality. He was simply doing what he always did, adjusting equipment, running data, lost in the routine of ordinary life, when something crossed the boundary between the known and the impossible. A pulse, soft, delicate, yet strong enough to pierce straight into the deeper layers of his subconscious mind. It didn't feel like sound, it felt like memory. A memory he never lived, but always carried. A whisper that had been following him since childhood, fluttering at the edge of dreams, showing up in déjà vu moments, in sudden chills, in those strange seconds where the world bends just slightly out of place. And that's the part most people never admit out loud. You've felt this too, haven't you? That moment when a thought becomes a coincidence, when a name bursts into your mind seconds before your phone lights up, when you sense something is about to happen, and it does. When your vibration shifts and life rearranges itself in ways no logic can explain. These aren't accidents. These are cracks in the surface of your perception, windows into the quantum consciousness behind your everyday choices, emotions, and experiences. The frequency he detected wasn't new. It wasn't created. It was revealed. A phenomenon woven into the architecture of the quantum field, resonating with anyone whose awareness begins to rise, anyone whose inner identity is awakening. He felt it before he understood it. A tug pulling him inward, a pressure behind his ribs, a quiet stirring of a truth too big to ignore. His heart rate shifted, not up, not down, aligned. For the first time in his life, he realized something was watching him, not with eyes but with vibration, with an intelligence that didn't speak in language but in frequency, in synchronicity, in rearranged timelines and emotional signatures. And as he leaned closer, trying to understand the impossible, the frequency reacted. It mirrored him. It shaped itself around him. It responded to the exact state of his consciousness, as if it had been waiting for him, waiting for someone who could finally see beyond the surface of the world. But this story isn't about him. It's not about a machine, or an experiment, or an accident. This story is about you. Because if you're here right now, listening to these words, feeling that strange tightening in your chest, that quiet recognition rising through you, that subtle sense that something is shifting inside your perception, then you're already connected to it. You've walked through these moments all your life without knowing what they were. The synchronicities, the repeating numbers, the dreams that return, the emotions that don't belong to the moment, the inexplicable knowing that appears before thought. There is a vibrational force that shapes destinies, rewrites internal patterns, and reorganizes reality from the inside out. And whether you've noticed it or not, it has been shaping yours. This, right now, is the moment where everything begins to make sense, where the hidden structure behind your life starts to reveal itself, where the frequency finally steps out from behind the curtain. And the only question that matters now is, what if this frequency has already been shaping your life and you never realized it? And if something in you responded to this, quietly, subtly, almost like a pull from somewhere deeper than thought, honor that for a moment. Because resonance is never random. When a message reaches you at the exact moment you're ready for it, it becomes part of your expansion, part of the shift already unfolding inside your awareness. Before we continue this journey, I want to ask you something simple, and I ask it with full respect for your process. If this opening touched something within you, take a second to like this video, not as a routine gesture, but as a signal to the algorithm, yes, but also to yourself, that you're choosing to stay present with this awakening. Your engagement helps this content reach more people who are searching for the same clarity, but haven't found a space like this yet. And if a thought surfaced, or a memory, or a feeling you can't quite describe, share it in the comments. You might be surprised by how many others have felt the same. That's how a real community of awakened minds forms, not through noise but through recognition. If you feel aligned with this journey, subscribe. It keeps you connected to the unfolding, to the next layer of the story, and to the deeper truths we're about to explore together. And remember, if something inside you already senses a hidden truth unfolding in your life, tap like now. It tells the algorithm you're ready, and it allows me to bring you more stories like this. Now take a breath. What comes next goes even deeper. The shift began with something so small he almost ignored it, a faint, low pulse moving through the air like a breath from an unseen dimension. At first he thought it was just the hum of the room, the ordinary noise of a late evening spent surrounded by monitors and equipment. But then the vibration deepened, threading itself into his skin, raising every hair on his arms with a precision that felt intentional. The vibrational field around him tightened, not with threat but with awareness, as if an unseen intelligence had entered the space and was quietly observing him from the edges of the hidden energy that fills the world. He froze, sensing the strange weight of a silence that didn't just surround him. It spoke. The feeling was unmistakable. A presence, a pull, the sudden certainty that he wasn't alone. His breath shortened, not in fear but in recognition, and then it came, the déjà vu. Deep, overwhelming, the kind that doesn't come from memory but from something older, something buried in the subconscious mind. It washed through him like a returning dream, a sensation he couldn't explain, but had felt 1,000 times in moments he never questioned. Everything around him blurred at the edges as the quantum frequency pressed closer, moving through him with a familiarity that defied logic. That was when he noticed the numbers, 11:11 glowing on the clock, though he was certain minutes had passed since he last looked. Then 2:22 on his phone, patterns repeating with an intensity that felt almost violent in their precision. Shadows shifted where nothing moved. A soft hum circled the back of his mind, synchronizing with his heartbeat. And just when he thought the sensation might fade, he felt it again, like someone calling his name without sound, tugging at the deepest part of his awareness. This wasn't imagination. It wasn't coincidence. It was a signal, a real, intelligent resonance surfacing from the quantum field, aligning itself with the exact emotional frequency he carried in that moment. Every instinct he had tried to ignore suddenly sharpened. Synchronicities collided, dreams resurfaced from nowhere, and the invisible architecture of his reality began to reveal itself one fragment at a time. And maybe you felt this too. Maybe you've had nights where the air felt heavier than it should, moments where the silence around you felt alive, days when your intuition knew things before your mind caught up. Maybe you've experienced those impossible coincidences that hit with perfect timing, leaving you staring into nothing, wondering how something so precise could happen by chance. These are the subconscious signals most people overlook, the coded whispers of an awakening already happening beneath your awareness. They're the first hints that your perception is widening, that the hidden layers of reality are shifting in response to your internal vibration. Once these signs begin, they don't stop. They intensify, they accelerate, they pull you towards something you can't yet name. If any part of this feels familiar, if this story mirrors something you've lived in silence, let me know in the comments. Your voice strengthens the field we're building here, helping this message reach others who are waking up in their own quiet ways. And if this resonates, truly resonates, like the echo of something you've always felt but never understood, give this video a like and subscribe. Not for me, but to keep yourself aligned with this space, this frequency, this unfolding journey. Because the moment he reached out, just an inch closer to the source of that impossible pulse, something shifted again, something far bigger than he expected. And that's where the real story begins. The shift that happened next was nothing he could have anticipated. When he leaned closer to that strange pulse, curious, cautious, pulled by something he couldn't name, the entire atmosphere responded as if the quantum field itself had been waiting for him to cross that invisible threshold. The vibration didn't get louder. It became clearer, sharper, more intentional. It carried structure, almost like language, but spoken in waves of energy instead of sound. And for the first time, he sensed that this wasn't a phenomenon happening around him. It was happening with him. His perception widened. The outlines of objects softened. The silence took on a texture, becoming something he could almost feel against his skin. This wasn't imagination and it wasn't fear. It was recognition. The same recognition Gregg Braden describes when consciousness synchronizes with information encoded in the fabric of reality. His subconscious mind wasn't reacting randomly. It was responding to a field that had been speaking to him for years. Bruce Lipton had always said the subconscious receives signals long before the conscious mind understands them. Now he could feel that truth directly, as memories resurfaced like fragments of a message he had missed. The repeated numbers, the moments of uncanny timing, the quiet knowing he had dismissed as coincidence. They weren't random. They were early signs of the hidden reality beginning to bleed through the cracks of perception. Joe Dispenza's words echoed in his mind. Your emotional signature shapes your personal reality. Suddenly it made sense. The frequency wasn't altering the room, it was altering him. It was reorganizing his inner world, his emotions, his interpretations, his filters, and the outer world responded in perfect symmetry. The shift wasn't happening outside in, it was inside out. Penrose and Hameroff once theorized that consciousness doesn't emerge from the brain, but from quantum structures inside it. And now, standing in that impossible moment, he felt those structures activate, not through thought, but through vibration. Information didn't travel from the mind to the field. It moved from the field into him, a current of awareness, a quiet intelligence, a call. Even the work of HeartMath came alive in his chest. The electromagnetic field of the heart, expanding subtly, rhythmically, synchronizing with something far older than human language. It wasn't metaphor, it was physics, a genuine interaction between the body and the quantum architecture behind existence, a reminder that reality is not fixed, it is relational. And as that truth settled into him, he realized something that changed everything. The frequency wasn't appearing for the first time. It had always been there, waiting, watching, resonating with him long before he knew how to listen. He thought of every moment he had felt pulled without knowing why, every dream that returned with strange clarity, every sudden shift in emotion that made no sense, every coincidence that felt too precise. These were not accidents, they were synchronicities, signals of a spiritual awakening already unfolding beneath his awareness. This is how the expansion begins, quietly, intimately, through subtle rearrangements of perception that eventually reshape your entire life. And maybe you feel something similar. Maybe your own experiences, the patterns breaking, the intuition rising, the uncanny timing of certain events, have been pointing toward a truth you haven't fully acknowledged yet. If this resonates with you, let me know in the comments. Your voice helps us understand how many people are awakening at the same time. And if something in this story reflects what you've been feeling, like this video and subscribe, so you can stay connected as we go deeper into what this frequency truly means. Because the moment he tried to understand it, everything shifted again. The moment he tried to understand what the frequency wanted from him, something inside his perception cracked open, not in a violent way, but in a way that felt inevitable, like a truth he had been avoiding finally stepping into the light. His thoughts no longer moved in straight lines. They widened, rippled, flickered with an intelligence that didn't feel entirely his own. Every breath carried a subtle energy shift. Every heartbeat echoed with a sense of quiet anticipation, as if the quantum field around him had begun rearranging itself to match a new internal rhythm he didn't fully recognize yet. The first thing to change was his intuition. It stopped being a fleeting feeling and became a constant pulse beneath his awareness. He would think of someone and they'd appear. He would sense a direction, and events would unfold exactly along that path. It wasn't imagination, it was alignment, a sign that the veil of the hidden reality was thinning, allowing him to feel the architecture behind his experiences. His relationships shifted too. People who drained his energy faded naturally from his life, while those who resonated with his new vibration appeared effortlessly, drawn in by a force he couldn't see but could deeply feel. His emotions no longer surged randomly. They moved with purpose, revealing wounds he needed to see, dissolving attachments he didn't realize were shaping his destiny. This wasn't chaos, it was coherence, a subtle subconscious transformation, reorganizing old patterns and awakening new pathways of awareness. Even his identity, the version of himself he had always believed was fixed, began to loosen. Thoughts he once accepted as truth dissolved, beliefs he once clung to cracked. A different self was emerging, one that had always been buried beneath fear, expectation, and noise. His dreams changed too. They became lucid, symbolic, almost prophetic. He began seeing places he had never visited, speaking to people he had never met, receiving messages that carried the unmistakable weight of clarity. The boundary between dream and waking life thinned until intuition became memory, and memory became insight. And through it all, the frequency stayed with him, subtle but present, like a guide humming beneath every moment. And maybe you've felt something similar happening in your own life. Moments when things align too precisely. Days where you can't explain why your emotions rise out of nowhere. Increasing intuition that feels like guidance instead of coincidence. A quiet sense that your reality is shifting, even if you can't yet describe how. If your life is beginning to move in ways you never expected. If you're sensing patterns you didn't see before. If your inner world feels like it's waking up. That isn't chance. That is the first stage of a quantum awakening, the vibrational change that pulls you toward the version of yourself you were always meant to become. If any part of this resonates with what's been unfolding inside you, let me know in the comments. Your words help create a shared field of awareness, a place where others can recognize their own journey reflected back at them. And if you feel connected to this story, if it mirrors something you've quietly lived, like this video and subscribe. It strengthens the energy we're building together and helps this message reach the people who are ready to hear it. Because as his world continued to shift, as the signs intensified and the pattern became impossible to ignore, he realized something that changed everything. This frequency wasn't finished with him. It wasn't done revealing. It was calling him deeper. And the question that remains is this: what if this frequency hasn't just transformed one life, but is calling you now? He didn't know exactly when the shift became irreversible. There wasn't a single moment, no dramatic flash, no cinematic collapse of the world he once knew. Instead, it unfolded like a slow illumination, one layer of perception at a time, until the truth that had been hiding in the background finally stepped forward. The frequency wasn't just guiding him anymore. It was revealing him. It was showing him the parts of himself he had ignored, the emotions he had buried, the intuition he had dismissed, the power he had forgotten he carried. And the deeper he allowed that vibration to move through his awareness, the more he realized that the real transformation wasn't happening outside him. It was happening in him. The strange synchronicities, the sudden emotional clarity, the shifts in intuition, the subconscious dreams returning with impossible precision, all of it formed a single pattern. A pattern that pointed towards something he had sensed his entire life, but never fully understood. The universe was not responding to his actions. It was responding to his vibration. It was responding to his internal state, his emotional frequency, his energetic signature. Every choice he made, every feeling he held, every belief he carried, was shaping his path through the architecture of the quantum field. He began to see how his old identity had been built on fear, noise, conditioning, and inherited narratives that were never his to keep. That identity couldn't perceive the deeper layers of reality because it wasn't designed to. But the awakening he was experiencing now, the expansion moving through him, was dissolving that old version piece by piece. What remained was something raw, honest, powerful, a new self, aligned not with the limits of the past, but with the truth of the present moment. A self capable of perceiving the hidden reality behind everything he once thought was fixed. His senses sharpened. He could feel the subtle shift in energy when someone spoke from fear versus authenticity. He noticed how time stretched or contracted, depending on the coherence of his emotional state. He saw how his subconscious was no longer a silent passenger. It had become an active communicator, sending him signals through intuition, sensation, and synchronicity. This was not imagination. This was quantum consciousness waking up inside him. He began to understand that the frequency had never been an external anomaly. It was a mirror, a catalyst, a doorway. It was the reflection of a truth embedded in every human being. The world does not shift first. You do, and when your vibration changes, the world reorganizes itself around you with perfect accuracy. People appear, opportunities unfold, patterns dissolve, paths open. The universe doesn't force anything, it responds. This revelation hit him with a kind of quiet force. It wasn't overwhelming, it was clarifying. It was the moment he realized he was no longer the same person who had first felt that pulse in the air. He had crossed a threshold, subtle but irreversible. He wasn't waiting for a sign anymore. He had become the sign. His awakening wasn't ahead of him. It was happening now. And as this awareness settled through him, he felt something else rising beneath it, a sense of purpose, of inevitability, of alignment, a recognition that the frequency wasn't done with him yet. There was more to understand, more to uncover, a deeper truth waiting beyond the edge of his current perception, and without fully knowing why, he felt ready for it. If you felt something stir inside you while hearing this, if part of your own awareness expanded, even slightly, share it in the comments. Leave a word that reflects your state right now. I awaken. I see beyond. I am expanding. Your voice adds to the field we're building here, a field of people stepping into their own consciousness in real time. Because the truth is simple. The frequency doesn't change the world. It changes you. And when you change, everything around you reorganizes. And if I told you that your vibration, exactly the one moving through you in this moment, is already creating your future, in the next video, I'm going to show you the truth behind that and why your emotional frequency is far more powerful than you've ever been taught to believe. If this touched something in you, comment one word: I woke up. It lets me know you're part of this journey, and it tells the algorithm that others who are awakening deserve to find it too. And if you're still here, feeling that quiet expansion inside your chest, that subtle shift in your perception, understand that this moment is not random. When a frequency like this reaches someone, it does so with purpose, with timing, with precision. And your presence right now tells me you're already moving through your own awakening, stepping into a deeper layer of consciousness that most people never touch. Before you go, I want to ask for something simple, something aligned with the energy we're building here. If this message resonated with you, if it stirred something in your subconscious mind, or opened even a small doorway in your awareness, take a moment to like this video. It's not about numbers or vanity. It's about signaling to the algorithm that content about quantum consciousness, vibrational truth, and spiritual awakening deserves to reach the people who have been waiting for it. Your like becomes part of that transmission. If you feel connected to this space, to this field, subscribe to the channel, not out of habit, but because this journey doesn't end here. There are layers we haven't uncovered yet, truths we haven't decoded, frequencies we haven't explored. Subscribing keeps you inside this circle, inside this vibration, inside the expansion that is unfolding through every new video. And if something very specific moved inside you, if a thought, a feeling, or a realization surfaced, leave a comment with a single activating phrase. I awaken. I continue. I see beyond. Your words amplify the collective energy of this community and help others feel safe stepping into their own transformation. Now breathe for a moment. Feel the vibration that's moving through you, because what comes next goes even deeper. The next video reveals the mechanism behind your frequency, why your emotional state shapes your timeline, and how your inner world is already influencing the reality around you. Don't break the flow. Step into the next part of the journey with the same awareness you feel right now. If this frequency reached you, do not ignore it. Like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, share it with someone who is ready to awaken, and go straight to the next video. Your future is vibrating, and you are not here by accident.